right, a couple of world leader meetings that we're watching from just yesterday. French President Emmanuel Macron traveled to Moscow and had a 5-hour dinner with Vladimir Putin, the president of Russia. It was said that reindeer was on the menu. Yeah, you could have chosen. They could have been eating that. It's interesting, local cuisine.
Blitzen's a little old, so they...
Perhaps.
Donner.
I've never had reindeer
Donner
before.
party.
I would imagine it's a bit gamey, but and nevertheless, that was an option. It seemed to go pretty well, as the AP reported that they both were able to, quote, register their disagreements. Macron says that NATO means no harm, and if NATO moves into neighboring Ukraine, it's all going to be okay. And Putin kind of scoffed at that, and he was like, yeah, that really wasn't the experience, though, of the people of Iraq, Libya, and Afghanistan. He makes a good point there. He says Europeans are being drawn into this military conflict with Russia. You'll be drawn into a conflict beyond your will, and there will be no winners. What he's referring to is the fact that the United States continues to sort of round up Western leaders in this defense against Ukraine, and that the European leaders really don't want it because they rely too much on Russian exports. In fact, President Biden hit that point home in a separate meeting with the new German chancellor. He says that if this Ukraine invasion happens, then there will be no Nord 2 pipeline. This is the pipeline that was supposed to deliver fossil fuel from Russia to Europe, which Europe is highly dependent upon. It's interesting why the United States has the power to say that, because they don't own Russia, they don't own Europe. Why then would they have any say in that pipeline going through two continents they have nothing to do with? Really, it has to do with sanctions. They intend to sanction anyone involved in it, which would cripple the project. It's not so much that they can shut it down. They can just make it extremely uncomfortable through related sanctions. And that's kind of like the president reaching into his back pocket saying, what can I threaten with, so that Germany knows you're not going to be the recipient of this fossil fuel if this happens and if you don't join my side. So far, Germany has really resisted getting pulled in.
That's
It's
because
crazy.
the U.S. believes in the secret, and they think that if they believe they own it long enough and hard enough, they will.
Supposedly, yes.
But I just don't understand. So the White House, saying basically if Russia invades, these were President Biden's words, that means that tanks and troops crossing the border of Ukraine again, then there will no longer be a Nord Stream 2 pipeline. We will bring an end to it. Like, okay, this pipeline going from Russia to Germany, we will put an end to it. Your United States of America. Like, we will put an end to Germany and Europe getting power, getting oil from
Yes.
Russia. We, the United States, will do that. We'll put an end to this.
It wouldn't hurt the United States really much at all. We'd still
No.
be getting our oil from Alaska and Mexico and the Gulf. But hey, you over there will be hurting unless you do what we want, which is advance NATO into the Ukraine and beyond is really what Western powers want. And so it really was an unveiled threat.
But what's weird is, though, that Germany was like, hey, we are totally we're simpatico right here. We're totally simpatico. I saw someone in the chat saying, oh, no, we're going to make an enemy of Germany. No, in fact, we're not. They're coming together on this. In fact, the new German chancellor, who just took over for Angela Merkel, Olaf Scholz, said, hey, we are simpatico in this. We are right in line with this. And he even started speaking in English. He slipped into perfect English. He wasn't speaking in German. He's like, we are, if Russia does this, we are absolutely going to bring down the power of NATO on Russia. So fine, Nord Stream 2, we don't need it. Well, I guess we're not going to worry about it. But the United States says this is what's going to happen, and we're going to fall in line because of it.
And Vladimir Putin says it's really the West that is banging the drum of this war. It's the West that wants it, but I'm going to stick around here.
Well, won't we figure this out pretty darn quickly?
It does feel like the North going who and the South going who. Like they're just, from the Dr. Seuss, like they're just looking at each other right now.
But won't we figure this out really quickly? I mean, if Macron says we had a really great discussion, spoke with Putin for 5 hours, Putin says, we're not going to invade. We're pulling back on our pressure. We're not planning on invading. We're never planning on invading. This is a Western narrative. We're not going to do it. we will know if it happens. Like, we will know who's right and who's wrong pretty quickly
Well,
here.
and we might
is
know
saying
if
this
it doesn't.
weekend, and the U.S. is saying this weekend they're going to invade like in the next few days. So we'll
Yes.
know. We're going to know pretty darn soon what's going to happen here, right?
Yeah,
What
but
were
this
you
is the
saying,
thing. Like, we look at the Gulf of Tonkin and look at the Bay of Pigs. Like, they could tell us that they did and they didn't, just to get us into a war. And this was I don't know if I'm the only one that thought this, but remember the argument between the defense guy and the reporter the other day when they were talking about that propaganda film. I was like, okay, that's basically setting it up. Like, we're going to make a propaganda film to get the United States on board, blame it on Russia. You know, like, my head just automatically thinks, what are they trying to manufacture right now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, and that's what Putin says. I mean, hey, we've been so trained in the United States that if like we hear what Putin says and we say, well, here's what he's saying, you cannot possibly call attention to what Putin says. Otherwise, you're a communist. Otherwise so we'll see. So the United States says that Russia is going to invade within the next few days. Okay. We'll watch that. And then Russia, in this meeting with Macron, says we are not. We just don't want NATO to expand. So we are showing our presence along the border, 100,000 troops strong.
Yes.
If you like this content, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Also, we have a membership program. For the price of a cup of coffee once a month, you can support independent journalism just by going to morninginvest.com/join.
You get access to exclusive videos, plus the ability to join and chat with us live. We really appreciate your subscription, and you are supporting independent journalism.